SeaWorld is keeping a close eye on a killer whale blamed for killing a trainer.
A killer whale turns a fun show into a nightmare. Imagine standing inches from an ocean giant that can crush you in seconds. Trainers thought they were safe until the water turned red. You won't believe the shocking attacks caught in front of crowds. Stay with me, because the darkest secret is still to come. Sometimes the most perfect-looking moment hides pure danger. Imagine this: you're riding on the back of a killer whale, smiling for cameras, the crowd cheering like it's a movie scene. And then, in one terrifying second, the dream turns into a nightmare. April 20th, 1971. SeaWorld's PR secretary, Annette Eckes, was asked to do a flashy stunt. Simple plan: climb on Shamu's back, glide across the water in a bikini, and give the press something unforgettable. At first, it worked. She balanced on him like a pro. The crowd went wild. But then, everything flipped. Shamu threw her off. Before she could even catch her breath, his massive jaws clamped down on her leg. The cheers turned into screams. In an instant, the playful stunt became a fight for survival. Shamu dragged her through the tank, refusing to let go. Divers jumped in with metal poles, desperate to pry his mouth open. But they had to be careful. One wrong pull and her leg could have been shredded completely. Finally, they forced his jaws apart. Annette was dragged out, her leg ripped open, blood everywhere. She needed 25 stitches to recover. She sued SeaWorld. At first, she won. But later, the payout was overturned. That day became a chilling warning. No matter how trained, no matter how staged, when you lock a predator in a tank, 1 second is all it takes for the show to turn deadly. Have you ever watched something so terrifying that the air itself felt heavy? That's what happened in San Diego, November 29, 2006. The crowd was laughing, cheering, music blasting, until a killer whale turned the show into a nightmare. Trainer Ken Peters was in the water with Kasaka, a massive female orca. The trick was simple: the rocket hop. She was supposed to launch him into the air. But instead, Kasaka spun, clamped her jaws around his foot, and yanked him under. What followed was 9 minutes of pure horror. She dragged him deep into the tank, then shot to the surface just long enough for him to grab a breath, before pulling him back down again. Over and over. The audience sat frozen in silence. Every second was caught on camera. Finally, Kasaka eased her grip. Trainers threw a net between them. That gave Peters the split second he needed to break free. He surfaced alive, but his foot was shattered, his leg ripped with deep puncture wounds. And here's the chilling part: this wasn't the first time. Kasaka had gone after him back in 1999. Peters brushed it off, saying it was like driving a car. You know the risks, but you do it anyway. But others saw it differently. A predator, trapped in a tank, forced to perform for decades, maybe it was only a matter of time before she snapped. And there was something else. That night, her calf was crying from another pool. Experts believe those desperate calls may have triggered her instinct to protect. Whatever the reason, one question hung in the air: how long can you cage an animal like this before it breaks? Kasaka's story ended in 2017 when illness finally took her life at around 40 years old. A long life for a captive orca, but one lived behind concrete walls, far from the freedom of the sea. Imagine seeing a video online that makes your stomach drop. A young orca trainer, barely 23, is dragged under the water during a live show. Blood everywhere. Arms flailing. The crowd screaming. You can't look away. Her name? Jessica Radcliffe. The place? Pacific Blue Marine Park. The story spreads like wildfire. TikTok, X, Facebook. Millions of eyes glued to the screen. People are horrified, sharing it as fact. But here's the twist. None of it was real. Not a single detail. Forbes, International Business Times, they all checked. The park doesn't exist. There's no Jessica Radcliffe. No police reports. No obituaries. The videos? Pure AI. Fake voices, impossible physics, movements that don't feel human. The gore? Totally fabricated. Like a Tarantino fever dream made digital. And yet, it fooled thousands. Shows just how fast a lie can feel like truth. Be careful what you believe online, because sometimes the horror you see isn't real at all. On March 15, 2007, a killer whale show in Spain turned into pure horror. Imagine sitting in the stands, cheering, when suddenly the water turns red. Two trainers jump in with two massive orcas. Seconds later, the pool explodes in chaos. Estrella, a 19-foot female orca, lunges without warning. She clamps down on her trainer's leg. Just think about that. One moment it's applause, the next it screams. Michael, the second trainer, dives in to save her. But then Matau, the male orca, cuts him off and crushes him in his grip. For 4 endless minutes, the crowd watches in shock. Water thrashing, people shouting, blood spreading across the pool. Every rescue attempt fails. Each time staff get close, the orcas attack harder. Can you believe this? The show everyone thought was safe became the deadliest orca attack in history. By the time the trainers were pulled from the water, it was too late. Both were gone. It was the first time ever 2 trainers were killed in the same attack. And it was the last killer whale show this park would ever dare to stage. The truth is, no one in that stadium would ever forget the day they saw Estrella's blood in the blue. This was supposed to be holiday magic in Japan. Families came for joy, kids came for wonder, but by the end, the Pacific ran red. December 8, 2013. Kamigawa SeaWorld thought they had the perfect idea. Dolphins and a killer whale performing together. Sounds amazing, right? But in truth, it was a ticking time bomb. The stands are packed. The ocean air is sharp. Everyone's ready for groundbreaking teamwork. But here's the truth, animals don't see teamwork. They see territory. And territory means war. Running the show is Robert Wilson, an Australian trainer who knows these creatures better than anyone. He's worried. Kaya, the park's only orca, has been acting strange. Weird swimming, unusual calls, and now a new male dolphin added to the tank. Robert even warned the park that morning, "This is dangerous." But money talks louder than safety. 2:30 p.m. The show begins. Kaya circles tighter. The crowd cheers, claps echoing through the stadium. 20 minutes in, Mizu, the new dolphin, drifts too close. That's all it takes. Kaya snaps. Robert sees it instantly. He moves in, ready to follow protocol. But instead of the dolphin, Kaya turns on him. She slams him into the water. Before he can signal for help, her jaws crush his torso. Imagine the horror. 1 second cheers, the next, screams and blood in the pool. Staff rush in, but chaos explodes. Dolphins scatter, panicking. Rescue nets can't even drop. For 3 long minutes, Kaya toys with him, dragging him under, shaking him like prey, pulling him up, then slamming him down again. And through it all, Robert keeps giving commands. English, Japanese. Instincts to the very end. At 2:53, Kaya drives him to the bottom, pins him against the glass. Divers finally drag him out, but the damage is done. Less than an hour later, he's gone. The aftermath? Japan banned mixed species shows with orcas. New rules worldwide. But for the people in that stadium, none of that matters. What they saw that day burned into memory forever. This wasn't an accident. This was nature's breaking point. Kaya's breaking point. It looked like just another training day. Calm water, routine practice, nothing out of the ordinary. But in seconds, it nearly turned into a nightmare. And the person caught in it wasn't a tourist, it was a trainer who thought she knew the whale she was working with. Claudia Volhart was 29, a skilled trainer, working with a killer whale named Takara. On the surface, it was supposed to be simple. But to understand what happened, you need to know what Takara had lived through. Takara was born in 2000. For a short while, things seemed fine. But then his mother, Tama, turned on him. She rammed him with her teeth, pinned him to the walls, even attacked him so badly he had to be taken away before he was even a year old. Imagine that, ripped from your own mother for safety. Katina, another whale, stepped in as a surrogate. Her calf tour became Takara's closest companion. They were inseparable, but that bond didn't last. By 2004, Takara was crated up and flown to San Antonio. 2 years later, he was shipped again, this time to Loro Parque in Spain. But this place was no sanctuary. The whales there had all been torn from their mothers too soon. None of them knew how to bond. Instead, they fought. Every single day. And Takara was at the bottom. He was bitten, rammed, scarred from head to tail. Sometimes he even beached himself, just to escape the violence in the water. Now fast forward to that fateful day. Claudia had worked with him for about a year. The session was routine, a foot push. She would stand on Takara's rostrum, and he'd push her across the water. Or so she thought. Mid-performance, Takara flipped the script. He yanked Claudia underwater, dragged her to the bottom, then shot up and pulled her down again. Over and over. Trainers on the side panicked, scrambling to save her. When they finally got her out, her arm was broken in 2 places. One lung collapsed. She was rushed to the hospital, barely holding on. Somehow, she survived. Claudia came back to work. But nothing was the same. From that day on, Takara was banned from close water work unless it was with the most senior trainers. It's easy to call a whale like Takara dangerous. But think about it. Torn from his mother, shipped from park to park, bullied and scarred until his body told the whole story. Maybe what happened that day wasn't just an attack. Maybe it was years of trauma boiling over. Tragedies don't just explode out of nowhere. They whisper first. Small signs, strange behavior, moments people ignore, until it's too late. That's exactly what happened before the day Dawn Brancho lost her life. The warnings were always there. To see how it built up, we need to go back. Iceland, 1983. A young orca, barely 2 years old, is ripped away from his family. One second he's swimming free in the icy ocean. The next, he's trapped inside a bare concrete tank. No space. No family. No freedom. Months later, he's shipped to Canada. People thought it was better. It wasn't. The pool was tiny, just 26 feet wide. Worse, 2 older females bullied him nonstop. They raked their teeth across his skin, leaving deep marks. He grew sick, stressed, and broken. Then came February 1991. Trainer Kelty Burns slips into the water. What follows is haunting. She tries to climb out. She reaches for the edge. But the orcas drag her under again and again. 10 long minutes. Until finally she disappears beneath the surface. Hours later, they pull her body out. The park shuts down a year and a half later. That young orca, Tilikum, is moved to SeaWorld Orlando. Some thought it would be a fresh start. It wasn't. In July 1999, workers arrive one morning to find a man's body draped across Tilikum's back. Daniel Dukes had snuck in overnight. No one knows what happened. No cameras. No witnesses. Just another body in his pool. Still, the shows went on. The breeding continued. The cycle never stopped. And then came the day Tilikum pulled Dawn Brancho into the water, in front of a live audience. Looking back, it's impossible to call these attacks random. Imagine it. A wild, intelligent animal, torn from family, locked in a small tank. Years of stress, isolation, and humiliation. Piece by piece, the rage built up, until one day, it couldn't be contained. Tilikum's tragic path wasn't sudden. It was a storm waiting to break. And when it did, the whole world saw the cost. Quito never knew the wild ocean. He never chased live prey or swam free with a pod. His whole world was concrete walls, tight routines, and shows built for applause. At Loro Parque in Tenerife, he was a star. But on Christmas Eve 2009, that star turned deadly. Alexis Martinez, just 29 years old, was in the pool with him. They knew each other well. Years of training, flawless performances. But that day felt off. Quito missed cues. He floated silent at the surface. Trainers noticed him blocking Alexis, sliding between him and the platform, like he didn't want him to leave. Then came the signal. Alexis swam forward. Quito followed. Slow at first. Then faster. A shove with his rostrum. And suddenly Alexis was pinned to the bottom. Backup signals fired. No response. Quito surfaced, took a breath, and dove again. This time he came up with Alexis balanced across his nose. Then his jaws clamped shut. Imagine the panic. Trainers screaming signals, scrambling for rescue gear. And then, Keto let go. Alexis sank lifeless to the bottom. The pool went silent except for the chaos on the deck. Keto lingered by the gate, stalling, almost like he was daring them. Only when the safety net dropped did he move aside. That gave rescuers seconds. Just enough to drag Alexis out. But the damage was catastrophic. Bite marks, broken bones, torn organs. Internal bleeding too severe to stop. There was nothing anyone could do. And here's the chilling truth, it wasn't a total surprise. Experts had already warned about the stress boiling inside those tanks. Boredom. Frustration. No stable pod. No dominant female to lead. The whales were left to fight it out, ripping at each other, even tearing strips from the pool itself. Christmas Eve was only the breaking point. The moment years of warning signs came crashing down. Keto's world of concrete walls and forced shows ended with one man's life, and a reminder of what happens when wild giants are trapped in cages too small for their rage. It started like any other morning. Warm sun, crowded stands, kids with ice cream, parents with cameras. No one could imagine they were minutes away from one of the darkest shows ever seen. September 2015. Gulf Coast Marine Adventure Park in Biloxi, Mississippi. A 5,000-seat arena buzzing with excitement. At the center of it all, Nova. A 20-foot female orca, fast, razor-smart, the star of every show. And beside her, 31-year-old trainer Savannah Calloway. She wasn't just a trainer. She lived for this. Raised on the coast, rescuing dolphins as a kid, chasing a dream that brought her here. But by 2015, Nova wasn't the same. Strange calls at night. Refusing tricks. Pacing, ramming glass, even pinning a trainer once. Savannah logged warning after warning. The park pushed on. Tickets were sold. The shows had to go on. Then came September 23rd. From the very start, Nova was off. Slow, circling, ignoring cues. Even snapping her jaws during a flip. Trainers noticed. One even radioed a warning, but it got dismissed in the noise. And then came the stunt. Savannah climbed onto Nova's rostrum. A move they'd done 100 times. The crowd cheered, but Nova's clicks grew sharp, rapid. In a flash, she whipped hard left. Savannah flew across the pool. Before she could react, Nova struck. Jaws crushing down with nearly 19,000 pounds of force. The cheers turned to screams. Families covered their kids' eyes. Security tried to calm the crowd. But the nightmare was only starting. For 7 long minutes, Nova didn't stop. Dragging Savannah under. Hurling her into the air. Catching her mid-fall like prey. The water turned red. The audience frozen in shock. Every recall failed. Food, signals, underwater tones, ignored. Nova even pinned Savannah against the glass, giving the crowd a chilling, up-close view. Rescue nets jammed. Trainers shouted commands. Nothing worked. Finally, emergency teams forced Nova aside long enough to pull Savannah out. But it was too late. 11:47 a.m. She was gone. Later, investigators uncovered the truth. Months of warnings ignored. Savannah herself had written about Nova's aggression. Other trainers noticed too, but no one stopped the shows. A broken filtration system that morning may have pushed Nova over the edge. But the real cause? Years of signs brushed aside. The park never recovered. Fines, lawsuits, empty seats. By early 2016, it shut down for good. Nova was sent away, never to perform with trainers again. And Savannah's death became a brutal reminder. No matter how deep the bond, you can't tame the instincts of a predator. One moment of trust can turn into tragedy.